Hello, everybody. This is Mahadeva Thunder Wizard. I haven't been on my YouTube channel very much lately, and that's because I have been uploading a lot of stuff onto my other two platforms, which you can see in the sorry, I'm tired. Which you can see in the chat section there. So, as you know, YouTube loves to censor, and they also love to deplatform people for speaking against the collective. So you can go to bitshoot.com, and the links are there. It'll take you directly to my channel page there, and you can also go to odyssey.com, odyssee.com, and my link is there in the chat. So I would recommend going there if you want to see all the stuff that I've uploaded recently. So we are definitely in a time of spiritual warfare. If you're not engaged in spiritual warfare, then you are actively being harvested and plugged into the biodigital matrix. And what I am continually amazed at as I continue to open my eyes and see what is actually going on in the world, what I'm continuously amazed at is the level of, I've got a bunch of negative words going on in my head, the level of sociopathy and psychopathic murderous intent that is being inflicted upon the world by the reptilian horde. So, in case you know, it's important to understand what I mean when I use that word, because it's a really good word. When we talk about reptilians, a reptilian, you can even call them human reptilian hybrid. A reptilian is a human being who is completely operating from their reptilian brainstem. So this is the least awakened part of the brain. This is the part of the brain that is the original brain that was created in all living animals on the planet, and human beings are animals. And it represents just the basest aspect of survival. It's fight or flight. And when you operate from the reptilian part of your brain, you're completely disconnected from anything truly spiritual, truly emotional. I mean, the only emotions that you have are pure responses to stimulus. And there's no empathy. That's what makes reptiles so frightening. When you look into the eyes of a snake, there's no empathy there. You look into the eyes of a shark, there's no empathy there. And so we're talking about people, human beings, who are completely operating from that part of their mind. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have an intellect, because the intellect is also, by itself, when it's disconnected from the heart and when it's disconnected from your spirit, the intellect is also just basically a computer. It has no empathy, it has no awareness of anything outside of itself. And actions that are, you know, people who lack empathy, sociopaths. Sociopaths don't, you know, in other words, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. No feeling, having no empathy, not caring. So what I'm seeing with the reptilian horde as they're, making their final desperate push to completely dominate and control the world is that it's not that there's this targeted attack. It's not like World War II when the Nazis targeted the Jews and there was all this hatred and anti-Semitism. This is just a sociopathic action to eliminate people and there's no emotion behind it. The people that are doing this aren't filled with hatred. They're not filled with some kind of, racist or, they don't have some kind of agenda to get rid of the horrible people in the world. These are just people who do not have any empathy for other humans. Anybody. They see themselves as being above you. If you're not part of them, they see themselves as above you. And they treat you like cattle or insects. That's how they are to you. They're sociopathic. They have no empathy, and they have no morality about what they're doing. In this final push of the reptilian horde to completely dominate and transform the world. And those movies, those science fiction movies where the aliens come in and they terraform the earth, they poison the earth so that the earth will have whatever their toxic atmosphere is on their home world. And that's the same kind of thing. They're just seeking to create what they want for themselves. And if you happen to be in the way, they just mow you down without any empathy whatsoever. And I am continuously amazed by this. And I don't know that we've ever seen anything like this in the history of the world. As I look back in history, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. So before I start to sound like I'm indulging in victimhood, which I'm not, we need to talk about the heart center and what the reptilians are seeking to destroy in us, which is Vishnu. So if you look at the picture of Vishnu here, behind him is some cobras. And this represents the power of the ability of the heart center to overcome the reptilian, that aspect of the reptilian mind that has no empathy. And Vishnu is always associated with warfare. And if you look at the thumbnail that I put up, which was from a previous video, it shows Vishnu in his role as Narasimha, the man lion. And what happens with Vishnu, if you're not familiar with that, Vishnu is one of the three of the Trinity in Hinduism. And that Trinity consists of Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. Shiva represents the higher self, and he's seen as the destroyer, and what that means is he transforms. He's constantly pushing towards evolution, which is the higher self. Brahma is the creator, and he represents the lower self, the navel center, where your personality is actually an engine that is used to create and manifest your physical world. And then you have Vishnu, which is the soul. And the soul is in your heart center, of course. And it is the soul that represents the true spiritual existence. And what we have now in this biodigital matrix that we are living in is a complete, total assault, an attempt at the destruction of the soul. It couldn't be more diabolical. And Vishnu, representing the soul, he actually is the soul. Vishnu incarnates, according to Hindu mythology, Vishnu incarnates into physical form in order to defeat the reptilian elite, in whatever form they are, the demonic horde that is seeking to destroy humanity. And he ends up going to war in whatever form he is, whether he's Rama. Rama represents the human soul. If he is Narasimha, which represents the defense of the unconscious. If he comes as, who else? If he comes as Krishna, which is the mind, the emotional aspect of the self. Each one of the 10 avatars of Vishnu represents the soul, the divine soul of the universe that comes down into human form, or in some kind of manifested physical form, in order to defeat and destroy that which seeks to destroy aspects of the human being. And so what's happening right now is there is an assault on the soul of the human being. What the World Economic Forum wants to create is a soulless machine of a world. And if you're not familiar with the World Economic Forum, please be my guest, go onto their YouTube site, go onto their website, and browse around and see what they want to create. And the mythology that they are creating is basically, if you watch Star Trek, right? Like the Star Trek universe is, they're in the future, everything is high tech, and there is no individuality left. There's nobody owns anything. There's no poverty. There's no illness. There is, a galactic federation of planets, and everybody has their role, and there's nobody really accomplishes anything for themselves. It's just this giant collective. And the mythology of that, which I've shown you numerous times, but it never gets old, which is, let me see if I can find it. Where did I do with that? The World Economic Forum. I think it's up here somewhere. Where you will live in a world where, here it is. You will live in a world where you own nothing and you'll be happy. Everything that you want, you'll rent, and it will be delivered to you by drone. The US won't be the world's leading superpower. A handful of countries will dominate the world. That's the whole idea of globalism. I used to respond negatively to people who had fears of globalism, and that was coming from my ignorance about all of this. I didn't spend any time worrying about any of that garbage. I didn't understand that globalism didn't mean human beings working together in an Aquarian age type of mindset. Because we do live in a global society. That's just a fact. I mean, the internet is connected, everything. We are all connected. So the idea of isolating oneself from the world is just not feasible. So that's really what my negative reaction was against this idea of isolating and getting guns, and I thought that was ridiculous. But what is really meant by the globalist agenda isn't an agenda to connect everybody. it's an agenda to homogenize everybody. It's an agenda to destroy all countries, all societies, all traditions, all culture, and homogenize everybody into one flavor, and to take everybody out of nature and pack them into cities. And as they said, I mean, the globalists are, I mean, they're completely straightforward and honest. They don't want you to have any individuality. They don't want you to have a life. They don't want you to own anything. They want to rent everything to you. They want to own everything, and they'll let you live in the world as long as you pay them money. And of course, you'll be paying them money out of the money they give you for working for them. You won't be able to own your own business. You'll have to work for the corporation. And this is a direct attack on the soul, because the whole idea of the soul is being an individual and having your dreams and fulfilling your dreams. This is why, this is what the Romans brought when they came to colonize, other parts of the world. And when they got to Northern Europe, the indigenous tribal people that lived there, the barbarians, they were fiercely independent. There wasn't any, there was, for instance, when you went into Germania, which was the part of Europe that was inhabited by indigenous Germanic tribespeople, there wasn't a bunch of countries. There wasn't even one Germanic country. There was just a bunch of different people who shared a similar language and culture, but they were all independent. Independent clans and tribes. And the globalist agenda that was brought with the Roman invasion then morphed into Christianity, which is now one of the reasons I still have such strong antipathy towards Christianity, because it's a globalist agenda. Everybody needs to accept Jesus. You need to go and proselytize and convert people into your religion. But even then, it's a bastardization of the heart center, because Jesus is associated with the heart. But now we've got this globalist agenda that just seeks to absorb everything, get rid of every single scrap of spirituality, get rid of every single scrap of individuality, get rid of every single scrap of creativity. And this is why my ancestors fought so hard against what they called the sickly Christ. They saw it as sickly to connect to that. And the idea that what Christianity brought was this idea of denying yourself, which is a bastardization of dying to yourself, denying yourself, carrying your cross, that life was suffering, that you were not allowed to have any pride. I mean, the Amish are really focus on this. You can't even have buttons on your clothes, because that shows pride in yourself. And any pride that you have for your own accomplishments is taking away from God's glory. That God literally is this narcissist who wants all of the glory. He created human beings not out of love, but out of a desire to glorify himself. And so human beings were required to get rid of any pride, any sense of self. And this is shown in modern New Age spirituality, where people want to talk about, dying to the ego, and they have no idea what they're talking about. They want to annihilate themselves. People come on and say things like, I'm not an individual, I am one with everything, as though that's spiritual. That's not. That's a denial of your own soul. Your soul comes into existence to express itself. And you help other people by being the most powerful, fulfilled individual that you can be. And when you do that, other people are empowered to be themselves and experience themselves. And so the key to destroying this psychopathic, narcissistic, sociopathic mindset that is seeking to swallow everything up into the collective, the answer to that is to go deeper into the soul and to overcome the fear that is being injected, literally, the fear that is being injected into our society, is to operate from the soul and to overcome the fear. So I still have the same mindset I did before my most recent understanding, which is that if you're operating fearlessly from your soul, if you're willing to die to achieve your greatest soul desire, that then you become bulletproof. In fact, that's the only way. There's so much pressure. I want to talk about it on this channel, but I can't. But there's so much coercion that the government is using every single avenue that they can, both legally and illegally, to coerce people out of fear, out of inconvenience. Where's it going to stop? I don't know that it will, unless we stand up. And unless we stand up, it is guaranteed that you will lose everything. You will lose all individuality, you'll lose all possessions, you'll lose all freedoms. And what is really shocking to me is the level of commitment that the reptilian globalist agenda has. And they're willing to kill and destroy everybody to accomplish it. And that's what blows me away. It's easier to understand somebody, it's easier to understand a Hitler. I'm not at all, you know me, I'm not at all condoning it. But he was driven by hatred. And at least I can understand that. I can comprehend it. I can't comprehend the soulless commitment to destroying everything and everybody for the sake of whatever it is they want to accomplish. There's no anger. There's no racism involved. There's no ideology. It's just a machine. It's like a machine. It's like a virus. It just doesn't care. It doesn't differentiate. And I'm having a hard time comprehending it. And the only reason that I'm having that experience is because the more that I look at what is happening, the more unbelievable it is. And so the only way out is to not let it take your soul away. And so there's a reason why I now, understand on a deeper level. There's a reason why I have been chosen to give this information to the world. This spirit fighting power of the heart. Now more than ever, we need to tap into the lightning power of the heart, which is all the stuff that we do here at the 90-day challenge. So I don't really have a whole lot more to say other than that. It's time for Vishnu to incarnate. What that means, I don't know. If Vishnu is going to come out of the clouds like Jesus and come down to earth and slay all of the globalist reptilian horde, I don't know. But I do know that human beings, when we are willing to fearlessly stand up for our own individuality, when you do not comply to the coercion, to the fear, and like the blob, it just keeps going and it gobbles everything up. And it's so easy to just knuckle under and just follow the coercion and just do what you're being told to do. And they'll wear you down in whatever way it takes. They'll wear you down with the coercion, with the fear, with the relentlessness of it. It's like a boa constrictor. The way a boa constrictor kills its prey is it wraps around the prey and it squeezes. And the squeezing is continuous. And it waits for the prey to breathe. So as the boa constrictor is wrapped around you and squeezing, in order to breathe, you have to exhale to make room for more air. So you exhale in the hopes of inhaling, and as you exhale, it squeezes. You can't inhale. And then you exhale a little more. It squeezes a little more. It squeezes so tight that there's nothing left. There's nothing left to exhale. And then your ribs are crushed. You suffocate to death. And this is what's happening to us. And the illusion that you can't breathe, that you can't expand yourself, is an illusion. You just have to be willing to say no. And you have to be willing to speak truth to power. According to some astrologers, this is coming in the next couple of months. I hope they're right. I hope that there is a revelation and that the sociopathic destructive mindset is revealed in all of its glory, so that people can finally see. People that are going along like everything's okay, not understanding that they are they're becoming part of the zombie collective. All right, so anyway, you get where I'm going with this. I'm tired, so I'm not making a lot of sense. I'm happy to take any comments or questions. This is a question and answer. If you have a question, write the word question in all caps so I can see it. And if you have an honest feeling, you can write that down as well. Let's see what we got. Anybody here today? Dakota Spruill question. What was that affirmation you use a lot? The affirmation is this: even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. It's the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to repeat that. When you're having an uncomfortable feeling that you don't know how to tolerate, you say, even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. And this is the most enlightened any being can ever be. It doesn't matter if they're the Buddha or if they're the most insane criminal locked up somewhere. Anytime that you can honestly say, even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself, you are as enlightened as any being can be. Because what is the definition of enlightenment? Enlightenment is when you have all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your impulses, happy, sad, positive, negative, comfortable, uncomfortable, no matter what they are, you have all of those thoughts, feelings, and impulses, and you have them without any judgment. You don't judge yourself for any of them. And then you still have the awareness to know what is the most constructive action, even if it's the exact opposite of what your instincts are telling you to do. When you are in that state, you are completely enlightened. There is no higher state of enlightenment than that. Enlightenment is not what the World Economic Forum wants you to believe, which is just being in this state of empty bliss and just clueless to everything around you. It's you can be full of bliss and be enlightened, and you can be full of suicidal, homicidal rage and be completely enlightened. The only thing that matters is, are you aware of what is most constructive for yourself and for others? And do you have the ability to take action on that regardless of your feelings? That's enlightenment. All right, so let's see. I prefer questions. Welcome to the channel if you're new. I'm really not looking for your thoughts or your opinions. Just because it ends up being noise, I can't get to people's questions when you do that. Let's see, what else? No, I don't see any questions there. Donson Thunder Warrior. Question, can you explain the meaning of the peacock feather on Vishnu's head? I didn't know, does he have a peacock feather on his head? Let's take a look. Where is Vishnu? Where is Vishnu? There he is. The peacock feather. Is that a peacock feather? Let's see. Let's blow that up. I guess it is a peacock feather. Well, peacocks always represent, coincidentally enough, peacocks always represent what? Pride. You know, you're ruffling your feathers. Look at me. Look at how amazing and beautiful I am. So I'd never noticed that before, but that's pretty appropriate. Because what am I talking about? I'm talking about having your own individuality, having your ego. So it would definitely represent the conscious higher vibration of expressing your identity in the world, which is, again, is what the reptilian horde wants to take away from you. Your job is just to show up and do your part. You'll be given your little cubicle. You'll be given your role. We will pay you. We'll give you, you know, if you don't know what it means, go look up stakeholder economy. It is the most diabolical, disgusting thing that is being presented to us. So a stakeholder, who is somebody who's a stakeholder? Somebody who has shares in a corporation. So the assumption is that the universe is a corporation, that the world is a giant corporation. Remember, everything starts with an assumption. And most of the time, people introduce their assumptions without addressing it to your conscious mind. You know, Christianity starts with the assumption that everybody is sinful and will burn in hell, that God hates every human being. It just starts with that assumption. That's why Jesus had to come and save you. So they talk about how wonderful Jesus is and how much Jesus loves you. And all the while they do that, they're introjecting into you the assumption that you're worthless and God, you know, even though He created you, He can't stand you. He wants to destroy you. This is how much He loves you. He's going to brutally murder His perfect Son in your place, and the guilt of that will force you to your knees. So you'll say, "Thank you, Jesus, for dying for my sins." And it forces you into servitude. Stakeholder economy is, it just assumes that the corporation owns everything, and in their magnanimous, wonderfulness, they're going to give you a stake in their profits. So you're already, that's what pulls you into the collective. And now you're a stakeholder in their giant corporate economy, but they're wanting to make it. First off, the assumption from the World Economic Forum is that you are just the most giant, worthless piece of crap worker. You know, all of the talk about equality and fairness operates from the assumption that you don't have any of those things. And they are going to provide that for you. They are going to mandate equality onto you, which means they're going to mandate whatever you do. They're going to say, we're going to decide what equality is for you, and then we're going to give that to you. That's why they say you won't own anything, but you'll rent it from us. And everything you want, we'll just bring it to you by drone in your little cubicle. It's just already assumed, and it has this assumption. It's so condescending. It just assumes that you're this helpless nothing of a worker, and you just want to have good wages and a fair thing, and just give me my stuff. Doesn't assume you having the ability to create anything for yourself. And so out of their magnanimousness, they're going to give you a stake. You'll be a stakeholder. You'll have a stake in this corporation. It is the most dehumanizing understanding of the world that I've ever seen. Let's see. Dakota Sproul question, Mahavadeva, that's a new one. Is there an energy practice where you release some sort of fluid from your third eye and it goes down to your solar chakra and it feels glorious and extends the lifespan? I've heard of it. I don't teach it. But I already know that these things happen when you do the practices that we do. I don't know anything about that practice. I can't speak positively or negatively about it because, again, it's not a good idea to ask me about anything I don't teach, because then I'm forced into a position where I have to make a judgment on something I'm not aware of. My experience is that the people that I've run into who talk about it, I find them to be very condescending and very full of themselves and very passive aggressive and really childish about this is the thing and you have to do this one thing and this is the Enlightenment is doing this one practice that does it, and so that turns me on. But what they're talking about is something that all high-level practitioners know of, whether it's the Soma or whether they call it the Christos or the Grail or whatever the hell they call it. They're talking about the release of DMT from the pineal gland. That's all they're talking about. And any true high-level practice will do that. All of the spirit fighting practices that I teach does that. So if you want the release of DMT, I don't talk about it all the time because it's just part of the practice. Just something that happens when you do the practice. Is there another practice out there? Yeah. But again, don't ask me about other people's practices, like I said. I can't talk about what I don't know. You say, I feel like if we learned this practice, it could help us rise up as warriors. Well, so are you trying to say that what I'm teaching you won't give you that? That, if you need to go do that, go do it. I'm not the only game in town, but you don't realize how disrespectful that was. I'm already teaching you incredibly high-level stuff that is, in my experience, the most powerful warrior practice there is. I don't know of any other practice that has the ability to tap into the lightning power. So if you're new to the channel, this practice that you see me doing here, and the link to that is, if you want to be a part of that, you go to thunderwizard.com, click around for Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. If you want the elite practice, you can go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com. What these guys discovered 2,000 years ago, the Maoshan sorcerers of China, What they discovered was that there is a third energy. We are aware of Kundalini, which is the power of the enlightened ego that rises up through the spine and opens up the chakras, which are 7 levels of conscious awareness. Then there's life force energy, which is the energy, the ambient life force energy that is around, that is stimulated by breath, which is where the word Qigong comes from. Pranayama, breath work. Qigong and pranayama are 2 languages that say the exact same thing. Breath work, spirit work. There's a third power that has been undiscovered. The only people that knew about it were these guys. There are other Taoists that talk about it. They call it the heart mind or the Shin. But they don't really know how to have control over opening it and releasing it. So we're talking about Vishnu, the soul. So the soul, your soul, is encased in your heart center, surrounded by lightning. It's the most powerful spiritual force in the universe. And it really is, lightning. And the soul is this tiny, infinite point of light. It's like a singularity of light. And if your soul were to have exposure to 3-dimensional reality, it would rip a hole in it. So in order to protect this 3-dimensional video game that we choose to incarnate in, the soul has to be encased in lightning. So the lightning is focused inward. So it's encased in and of itself because first off, it has to protect the soul from the harshness of 3-dimensional reality. When the soul is out of the body and it is in its natural state, there is no such thing as hatred. There's no such thing as anger. There's no such thing as selfishness. There's no such thing as betrayal, lying, duplicity, manipulation. There is none of these things. So the soul is absolutely clueless to that. In 3-dimensional reality, because it's limited, people are imperfect. They hurt other people. They lie to them. They steal from them. They kill them. They do all kinds of horrible things. And, you know, if you've ever had any relationship whatsoever, there's never been a point where you haven't been hurt by somebody that's with you, no matter how wonderful they are. And so this lightning power surrounds the soul and it protects the soul. What ends up happening is that every time somebody harms you or you perceive yourself to be harmed by somebody, the lightning power acts as a shield, and that pain hits your heart and it's a wound, and that lightning power holds onto it and keeps it in a form of stasis. And the more wounds that you encounter throughout your life, people lying to you, deceiving you, betraying you, or you just didn't get your desires met by somebody. You fell in love with somebody and they didn't love you back. These create wounds that the lightning power holds on to protect the soul from that. And if you do not go through the practice, any kind of practice where you work through these wounds, if you don't process them, if you don't cry them out or talk them out or work through them so that you can release them, then this heart-mind power becomes just filled with all of these energetic wounds that it has to hold on to. You end up losing all of your energy because your energy goes into your heart center to keep these wounds in stasis so they don't damage your soul. So that's the normal function of the heart center. Traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, they listen to your pulse. They can tell if they're really good. They can go, you've been divorced. How do you know? I can feel it in your heart center. This is what the heart mind does. Now, this power is called the Emperor's bodyguard. It's like when you watch any Star Wars movies, and you see the Emperor, and the Emperor has this guard that's dressed all in red. Have you ever noticed that? That's a symbol of the Emperor's bodyguard, which means the baddest, most deadly warrior. You take that person, and that person becomes the Emperor's bodyguard. That completely, totally devoted to the life of the Emperor, which is your soul. This energy, which is the most powerful energy in the universe, whenever I'm doing these exercises, what I'm doing is I'm taking that lightning energy that's used to simply protect the soul and protect three-dimensional reality from the soul. And when you do these movements, it looks like I'm doing, this one looks like I'm doing a martial art, which it is. This here looks like I'm just doing regular Qigong. But what's happening is that these movements, what they do is they pull energetic switches that go directly to the heart center, and it turns, it releases that lightning energy from just being this self-directed, self-encased energy, and it starts releasing it out into the body. When that happens, what you're talking about, Dakota Sproul, is the release of DMT, which goes, in all kinds of different places. But it also gives the highest level of clarity. So the Mao Shan, that was the location, but the name of the sect was called Shang Qing, which means highest purity or highest clarity. And they were tapping into a level of existence which is called the Shang Qing, the highest level of clarity, the highest level of purity. What will happen when you do this work, what will happen is that you will become aware, first and foremost, of all of the wounds that you're holding on to. So you don't have to take my word for it. Talk to anybody who's doing this practice, and they will tell you that the first thing that happens is all kinds of negative, uncomfortable feelings will come up. They'll feel a surge of energy in their body. They may even feel a bliss in their body. And at the same time, whatever unresolved wounds there are in your heart will have to be dealt with. In order to have access to that lightning power, you must work through the wounds that are in your heart. That releases your life force energy as well as the spirit lightning energy. And then what will happen is you will be able to see more and more, you will be able to see reality for what it is. This is one of the reasons why whenever somebody just leaves a few words of a comment, I know exactly where they're coming from. I even know what they don't know. I know what's going on in their unconscious. It's not because of anything special about me. It's because I've been doing this work for 30 years now. So the level of highest clarity means you get to see the truth for what it is. Get to see reality for what it is. Doesn't make you perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I've just recently come to a great awakening about what's really going on a deeper level. So I don't know what I was responding to somebody's question. So Dakota, I don't know. Are you doing any of the practices? I know that I've talked to you maybe once or twice, but are you doing any of these practices? For anybody, this is a subscription, which I think is well worth it. This, of course, is you got to purchase these sets to do them, but not everybody wants to pay or has the ability to pay. In which case, I have already laid out for you practices from the free YouTube channel. So let me give those to you again. These are, if you don't want to pay the money, you can do these practices. And I just have to find the link here. And I think I even give you 4 different practices to do. If you want to tap into this heart-centered energy, I try to make it as accessible to everybody I can. Of course, you're going to be better off if you work with me directly or if you subscribe. But That's not the only way that you have to do it. Okay, so here it is. So if you haven't done any of these practices, Dakota, I don't know if you have or not, go to this link, or whomever's listening, go to this link right here, which is at the bottom here. So that is, just click on that. Click on that link and follow one of those practices. So he says, I was doing it for like very steady for a few months, but I need to get back into it because I've been slacking. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, I mean, yeah, so it's kind of, you'll have to forgive me, I'm human, but it's a little hurtful, it's a little, feels disrespectful to me when you're asking me, should I do this other practice that these other people do, and you're not doing the practices I'm giving you, which, by the way, you're not going to find anywhere else. I challenge you to find these practices anywhere else in the world. You won't. You won't find it anywhere. So, all right, let me back up here and see if there are other questions. What else? Dakota, just real question. Do you believe that the veils between the worlds is thinnest this time of year? Yes, it is. Right now, in what we call Halloween. I'm on the southern hemisphere, so I don't know if that's the same here or not. But in the northern hemisphere, this is the time of year that the veil between the living and the dead are the thinnest, which is why we have Day of the Dead in some cultures, Halloween in other cultures. These are also the best times of the year to talk to your deceased ancestors. So if you want to, if you've had negative experiences with, let's say, your parents or whomever, and they passed away, this is the time of year you can do rituals to them. You can face the southwest and light a candle and talk to them and try and work it out. You can face the northwest if you want to work with the ancient ascended masters. But this is the time of the year where you can get messages from the other side. And it's up to you, how you want to do that. Let's see what else. Olivia Rackley, she asks, does fluoride in toothpaste hurt your pineal gland? I don't know. They say that it does. I don't know. I can't answer that question. Dakota, question. And again, question is best if you put it in all caps, please. Can you just start with the lightning qigong, or should you wait until you've done the 90-day phases? The 90-day is the lightning qigong. I'm not sure what you're asking. The moment you start, you do the level 1. And let me tell people how to do this again. There was one person I had to just give their money back because they couldn't figure it out. But the Patreon, which is when you go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe, that's a Patreon channel. What you want to do is you want to get to the video page and scroll down, or you can click on it. If you want to start all the way from the beginning, you can click on, have it go either from newest to latest or latest to newest. But you want to scroll to the bottom until you find the first video in the series you're looking for, because it's done chronologically. So my apologies for that, but that's just the way that Patreon does things. When you get to the bottom, if you haven't gotten to the first video that you're looking for, it says, click for more, something like that. And you click that and more videos will come up. So that's the way to find the video that you're looking for in that. What else? Olivia Rackley, honest question. So you don't need to have an honest question. I just need a question or an honest feeling. Okay, that's all I need. I don't need an honest question because I assume your question is honest. Okay, sorry, I already answered that question. My apologies. Sinla, write the word question in all caps, please, so I don't miss it. Is the warrior associated with the Mars archetype? Yes. Can you give us some insight on that and how Mars in Scorpio is activating this source? Are you asking that because, let's see, where is Mars right now? Is Mars in Scorpio right now? I'm a Vedic astrologer, so that means that things are going to be different in the Vedic than in the Western. Western is actually off by 24 degrees. So any Western astrologers out there, I'm sorry to tell you, anything that Western astrology tells you is off by 24 degrees. Sidereal zodiac is the zodiac of what's actually above your head, not what was above your head 2,000 years ago, because that's the Western astrology is operating from that perspective. Let's see. In Scorpio, Mars is not in Scorpio right now. Mars is in Libra. I believe Mars is going to be in Scorpio, I think, coming up here soon. But Mars is not in Scorpio at the moment. So are you asking this because this is your chart? If so, I recommend that you go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, get an astrological reading from me or from one of my astrological apprentices, and then you can ask that question. I don't want to take up that time here just to look at one person's chart. Dakota Sproul, I don't want to comment. Dakota Sproul, I like you, but it would make me happier if you followed my instructions. I want a question or a feeling. Comment, I don't know what to do with those. All right, I already answered that anyway. Honest feeling, Olivia Rackley. Today I just started trying the wood element, hand motions, and the energy in the heart center feels like being in love, and it makes me happy. Yep. Yeah, the ironic thing about doing the spirit fighting is that it is the most powerful form of spiritual warfare there is. But it tells you what a truly spirit war is. Spiritual warfare is from the heart. And one of the things that will come from it is that you will have increased empathy. You will have increased love for yourself and for others. It will connect you directly to your soul, which is pure bliss. Your soul is made of pure bliss, not just love, but bliss. And it shows that that's the way to destroy your enemy. So if I use this martial art on another person, it's a very strange mindset, because you could completely just slice somebody to pieces, but your mindset is one of peace. You have this feeling of peace. There's no intensity, there's no anger, although you can put that into it. You can put anger into somebody, or happiness. You know, my teacher used to make us laugh. He would, he'd hit us. He'd hit us, and then we'd start laughing. Because he would, you put the feelings come out of your hands, which is your heart. Your emotions are in your heart. Anger is there, sadness is there, happiness is there, empathy, love, whatever your emotions are, these end up coming out of your hands. So you can touch somebody and they'll be able to feel what you're feeling. And you have to be, mature with that power. You can't abuse that. That's abusive, to dump your feelings into people like that, if you're not doing it with consciousness. So Sinla was going off of tropical. So yeah, tropical. So I don't know if you know this or not, but the tropical zodiac is off. It's incorrect. It's an incorrect calculation. It's looking at the sky from a wrong calculation, and you're looking at what the sky would have been 2,000 years ago, not now. This is why I don't do Western. It's not accurate. It's just that simple. It's not accurate. Let's see, vincent.thunderwizard.com. So you can go to, if anybody wants an astrological reading, you can go to his channel. He is one of my my astrologers. If you want me to do the same thing for you that I'm doing for him, which is whenever he comes on and says anything, I promote his channel. So if you go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com, I still have this available, you can get a certification from me. You just have to pass a very simple test to show that you understand what you've learned, and I will maintain a web page for you, joeschmo.thunderwizard.com, whatever it is, and people can go there and you can have your own astrology and rune reading business if you want. And so go to vincent.thunderwizard.com. He's one of my most successful astrologers. So he asks, question, why is it hard for me to tolerate my feelings? Same reason it's hard for everybody to tolerate their feelings. Uncomfortable feelings are uncomfortable. So if in general your feelings are hard to tolerate, obviously it means that there was some trauma, some dysfunction as a child. You did not get, not all mothers are perfect, and you did not get the perfect experience of yourself. So every mother, let me say this differently. There is no such thing as unconditional love except that which comes from a healthy mother with an infant. That's the only relationship in the universe on a physical form. The universe loves you unconditionally. The gods love you unconditionally. But there's no human that loves you unconditionally unless it's your mother and you happen to be an infant and your mother is healthy. So the idea is that the mother looks at the baby, and when the mother's looking at the baby and cooing at the baby, what's happening is the mother is reflecting back on the child without any agenda. One of the most damaging things anybody can do is when single mothers go out there and get pregnant because they're desperate for love and they think that a baby will love them. It's the worst thing. It's the most destructive thing. That's the best way to destroy a child. When you have a child because of your need to be loved by the child. But a true mother, the maternal instinct is they love unconditionally. All they want to do is take care of the child. They will give their life force away for the child to be individuated and be him or herself. And when the mother's looking at the child, she has no agenda. She wants to know, who is this individual and how can I help this being individuate into the world? And not all mothers do that. And so if the mother has any agenda, they will project any self-directed negativity onto the child. And we all experience it to some degree, some more than others. And when you are not given the opportunity to love yourself unconditionally, you will end up not being able to tolerate your own feelings. It means that your mother couldn't tolerate your negative feelings when you were an infant or a child. And you've been programmed to hate yourself whenever you have an intense feeling. And so that's all that's happening, is you're replaying that old childhood wound. And it's unfortunate that your mom wasn't perfect. But that's why. Because in order to be a good boy, you had to not have any feelings, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And so you're still playing that out. We all play it out. Hitler was playing out his, unresolved issues with his mom. Trump is playing out his unresolved issues with his mom. Everybody plays out, whatever unresolved issues they have, which we end up experiencing as adults as them being selfish or codependent or narcissistic. That's our faults come from our inability to love ourselves unconditionally, which is why that affirmation that I gave earlier is so important. Even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. Doesn't mean even though I have this feeling, I like it. It says even though I have this really uncomfortable, horrible feeling that's driving me crazy, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. That's the message your mom didn't give you. When you were crying, when you were upset, when you were needy, when you were whatever it was, the message wasn't, I love you no matter what your feeling is. So you're just simply replaying that, and you have an opportunity now to work through that, which starts with learning how to be uncomfortable and loving yourself, not judging yourself when you have an uncomfortable feeling. Because that's what you're saying. You say, it's hard for me to tolerate my feelings. It means that you judge yourself every time you have a bad or negative or uncomfortable feeling, whatever that is for you. For some people, having loving feelings is intolerable. Borderline personality disorder is this. They can't tolerate their loving feelings towards anybody. They end up having to kill that person because the fact that you forced me to have loving feelings for you makes me feel so vulnerable that I have to destroy you. So it doesn't matter if the feeling could be negative or positive. Your ability to tolerate it will, represent what your unresolved issue is. You go on to say, if I let myself feel everything, I may do something destructive to my relationship with my mom. I learned to suppress my anger. So feelings you don't have to act on them. What you're really saying is, this is again, children have magical thinking. They believe that their feelings have the power to destroy and kill. And a narcissistic parent gives them that feeling because, as you know, people who are narcissistic cannot tolerate anybody having any negative feelings towards them. They can't tolerate it. It feels like an attack. Whereas somebody who's individuated says, when little Mary or little Bobby at 4 years old walks in and puts their hands on their hips and say, Mommy, I hate you, because they all do it. Mommy goes, that's okay. Come here. I still love you. Mommy's opinion of herself is not affected by the child's feelings. And the child learns, oh, it's okay for me to have my feelings. My feelings don't necessarily destroy anything. It's what I do with them. But when you're 4 years old and you walk up to Mommy and you say, Mommy, I hate you, and Mommy slaps you across the face and says, how dare you talk to me like that? I'm your mother. Then the child says, oh my God, my feelings have the power to kill. I better not kill Mom. So I'm going to suppress my feelings. So that feeling that you have is just that feeling that your feelings are going to force you to do something destructive. They might if you allow them to, but you don't have to. You have the power to choose what your actions are. But this idea that the only way to protect your mom is by suppressing your feelings is absolutely 100% false, because this is how people become passive aggressive. This is passive aggressiveness. You've been around passive aggressive people. No, I mean, it looks good on you. No, I mean, that's all right for you. I suppose if I, had done what you did, I'd think the way you do. I mean, that's okay for you. Passive aggressive means that you're passive. You pretend to compliment somebody while at the same time demeaning them. So if you suppress your feelings, it is guaranteed you will act out negatively towards whomever you're around. But you won't be aware of it. It'll be unconscious. So the fact that you are conscious of your negative feelings already protects people from that, because you're aware, my God, I really want to do something negative to this person, but I'm not going to act on that. Let's go have the feeling. So the instinct to suppress the feelings, to make yourself unconscious of it, is that magical thinking that my feelings have the power to kill, and they don't. Your actions have the power to kill, or hurt, or maim. So if you love yourself in your feelings, you will have that experience of, wow, I'm really angry with my mom. It's because she's not doing this or she did that. And that's okay. It's okay for me to have that feeling. And just because I have that feeling doesn't mean that I have to act on it. So it's called, forgive me for saying so, it's called growing up. This is maturing. This is what all therapy is about. Therapy is about becoming a mature, individuated person. And other people's feelings, they can might hurt your feelings that somebody doesn't like you, but you won't feel any different about yourself because of how they feel. And you'll understand that's the true, I have this feeling, but that's okay. It's not about them, it's about me. So that's all. Just keep doing I know you're in therapy, just stay in it and work through it. Talk it out. Stop suppressing it. Obviously, that's doing physical damage to you when you suppress it. But it also makes you passive aggressive in some way. All right, so let's see what else. Iron Man, welcome to the channel. If you have a question, write the word question. I welcome you and invite you to watch my videos because it's always good to ask me about things that I teach. So by the way, everybody should learn how to do what I'm going to tell you. Learn how to search for search words within somebody's channel. So if you're on a computer, for example, and you go on to the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel and you scroll, you'll see a little magnifying glass. If you click on that, then you can search within the channel. If you're watching it on a phone or on a tablet, there will be some pull-down menu that says search within the channel. And you can put whatever search words you want so that you don't have to keep asking me about stuff I've already taught. So Iron Man, if you want to find out anything I have to say about Akashic Records, you can look for it. And I'll tell you what'll happen. You won't find anything. I don't teach anything on Akashic Records. That means don't ask me about stuff I don't teach. I can't answer your question because I don't teach anything about that. Runaway Train, question. Many of us will be fired soon because of refusing the reptilian anointing. No other time in the history of the planet this has been pushed so aggressively. So what is your best advice you can give? My best advice is don't do anything you don't want to do. You don't feel safe? Don't let anybody force you into doing something you don't feel safe doing. That's it. Is your health worth a paycheck? Is your life worth a paycheck? There are people that are doing that and they're suffering. Some of them, it kills them. So I don't know what else to tell you. My advice to you is don't do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And if it means that you lose your job, that means the universe is telling you that there's something better for you. Listen, as you know, I came here to Australia. You guys know that. I came here 2.5 years ago. And I had no idea what was going to happen. I got here 2.5 years ago, and after being here for 6 months, the pandemic hit and everything locked down, and I was in a bubble. There was a COVID-free bubble. It's still a COVID-free bubble. That's gonna change just after I leave here. But I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that I didn't belong in California anymore, and I wanted to go someplace where I could surf and live in the forest. And I ended up here, and it's been the most blissful, wonderful time of my life. But now things are changing, and I have to get the hell out of here before all kinds of craziness starts happening, where I'm at. And as sad and disappointed as I am, because I've gone through it, I know that the universe is forcing me to move, literally, in a different direction, which will take me to where I'm going to be even happier. I know that from experience. So if you're getting pushed out of your job because your job is forcing you to do something that you don't feel safe doing. It means that there's something that your soul wants to do. Maybe have your own business, do your own thing. So that's my advice to you. Follow your soul. This is now an opportunity to ask yourself, what is it that my soul truly wants to do? Olivia Rackley, question. When I die, can I get the immortals of the Mao Shan in order to teach me further? Why are you talking like this? I don't understand. Why are you talking about dying? I can't speak for them. I don't know if you can get anybody to do anything. I don't know. And why do you need them to teach you? And why are you talking about death? Why are you talking like that? It's a very self-destructive question. And I encourage you to be more life, enjoying your life. And it makes me want to ask you, have you been in therapy? You sound like somebody that needs therapy. I hope you don't take that negatively. I'm in therapy. I've been in therapy for 25 years. I've been doing 12-step work for almost 40 years. So I believe in reaching out and getting help, and you sound like you need it. Learn how to love yourself. A lot of self-directed negativity, a lot of self-judgment. And focus on being alive. When you're dead, things will work themselves out. Focus on being alive and being here. Okay? Impetus correspondent, question. You've said before that the lightning qigong makes you more open to love. I did. That sounds accurate. Does that mean you will look for a partner a lot more than you normally would? No, I did not say that. That is not, doesn't mean that. In fact, you will be more likely to focus inward and learn how to love yourself. You know, having a partner doesn't necessarily mean that you love them. It may mean that you hate yourself so much that you can't stand being alone. But you can't truly love somebody else until you can love yourself. You know, people say you can't be lonely if you like the person that you're with. Meaning, if you like being with yourself, you're not going to feel lonely. So, just because you're open to love doesn't necessarily mean romantic love. It could. It just means love in general. So, it doesn't matter. When you do the lightning qigong, you'll be more open to your own soul, which will direct you towards what it is that you truly want. If you want to be in a relationship, you'll go find it. If you want to be alone and work on yourself, it'll drive you towards that. What else? Dark, honest feeling. After starting the 90-day, I feel an instinct to get the Ayeshalmer tattooed on my heart center because I've had visions of me with that tattoo and deities coming out of my chest. Well, that's an honest feeling. I can't comment other than that. You haven't asked me anything, so. Yep. That sounds like a pretty intense experience. Olivia Rackley, honest feeling. I'm afraid we're all going to die soon because of all that is going on in the world. I think this is the end of the human species. Well, I don't know if we are or not, but that definitely sounds like your projection of your fear. Because that's not what I'm seeing when I look at astrology. And my instinct doesn't tell me that. It's not that we're not in a very dangerous time. We are. What it tells me is that the reptilian horde is desperate. They know that they are going to fail. So let's talk about the Looking Glass Project. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. The Looking Glass Project. I don't know if it's true or not, but I definitely resonate with what people are saying. And even if it doesn't exist, it's a great thing to intend. According to that, there are people who say that the deep state military intelligence community which is of course run by the reptilian elite overlords, that they have some kind of technology which has something to do with electromagnetism and swirling plates or something, I don't know, that they're able to look into the future and able to find out what they can do to influence certain timelines. So there is a certain timeline that the elite, if they're able to manifest that timeline, will allow them to have the complete control of the world that they want. And so they have the ability to know what negative things they can create. So there's apparently, if they're able to create the Holocaust, not the Holocaust, the Armageddon, if they're able to create some kind of world-ending destructive event, that will give them the ability to wrest the power that they want to control the world. So they've been doing that, and we talked about that in the last video, that every time you have a certain alignment of Rahu and Ketu, you have these world-changing events, 9/11, assassination of JFK, dropping of nuclear bombs, all of the pandemic, all of these things happen during this same alignment of Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of the moon, which represent karma. And so what they do is they manipulate, they manufacture some kind of world-changing negative event, and then they use the fear that is created from that, and they manipulate society through fear to push things in their favor. And there's apparently a 20% chance, if they're able to pull off what they want, they can completely control the timeline that gives them the ultimate power. So people who have been using this technology, I guess the supposed whistleblowers, have said that when they try to use computers to figure out what event they can use to create that perfect scenario for them, that after the date 2012, that it all breaks down and there's this enlightenment that happens, and no matter what they try to do to influence the timeline, it always ends up creating this enlightenment and as soon as I said that, I felt this really powerful, blissful feeling, which tells me something. That it creates this enlightenment event which completely, totally takes away their power. And bear in mind, their power is completely dependent on your submission. When you choose to do what they are trying to get you to do, they have power over you. The only reason that Hitler came to power is because people bought into the propaganda, the fear. He turned Jewish people into those are the bad people, and so everybody started becoming afraid of Jewish people. And that's what, that whole fear surrounding that is what gave the Nazis their power. So if you don't buy into whatever they're trying to shove down your throat, and if you do not comply, they lose their power. If you see them for who they are, they lose their power. So there's going to be some event, and some people are saying it's going to be within the next couple of months. That would be great if that's true. I don't know. But, when they're exposed for who they are, what they've been doing, which is, I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked at what has been going on. And what is obvious, the thing is, it's right there in front of you if you don't buy into the narrative and you look at it. You're like, oh my God, it's right there in front of you. They don't hide anything. Apparently there's some there's something about, black magic where in order to get what you want, you have to tell the person the truth of what you're doing. And so they've learned ways of telling you the truth while at the same time manipulating you and seducing you into their narrative. Like the what I just showed you, the World Health Organization, the first thing that they say, here are predictions, in 30 years, which is 10 years from, I don't know when they made that. But the first one is, you'll own nothing. I mean, they tell you right off the bat, you'll own nothing. If that's all it said is, you'll own nothing, you would go, what do you mean? But they follow it up with the command, the hypnotic suggestion of, and you'll be happy. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. I will? Okay. So this is, everybody who is going out there promoting the reptilian anointing, who believe in that narrative, who say, I believe in science. They also believe in democracy. They believe that there is a democracy, that there are nation states, that that you have the ability to influence government, which I've found out is nonsense. There is no such thing. There has never been a democracy. It's been all a sham. There has never been there hasn't been a constitution. It's been a sham. Other people have known this. Native Americans have known this. When you talk about, that in 1776, we fought this war of independence so that all people could be equal, Native Americans were like, well, that didn't work out so good for me. African Americans, when they were slaves and they were listening to their slave owners talking about equality for all people, they were like, what? Women who weren't able to vote, they're talking about your one person, one vote. I don't have a vote in this. It's all been a sham, all of it. And I noticed that the moment that I decided not to get the reptilian anointing, and then the President of the United States looked me in the eyes and threatened me. I went, holy crap, I don't have any rights in this. You have to comply. You have to be part of it in order to, even get the illusion of having any rights. So when everybody becomes aware that this has been a sham, the whole thing, and we see what's been going on, which is that really the whole world is owned by people who, did you know that the people who own the Federal Reserve of the United States, the Federal Reserve isn't the Bank of the United States. So when you give your taxes to the IRS, it doesn't go to an independent bank that the United States government owns. It goes to a privately held bank called the Federal Reserve. But it's owned by individuals who make money off of inflation. They make money off of the debt. This is why, the only person in my lifetime who's ever balanced the budget was Clinton. And who is one of the most hated people on the planet? Bill Clinton. Whatever else he may be involved in, I don't know, but he balanced the budget. And not only that, there was a surplus. They don't want that. They want banks don't want you to be out of debt. When you get the most offers for loans is when you don't owe anything. They want you to be in debt to them because that's how they make money. They make money off of charging you interest. The Federal Reserve makes money off of the United States being trillions of dollars in debt. Every single country, China, Russia, every single country in the world, except for I think maybe there's one or two countries that aren't owned by this one family. There's a family of people who own every single bank in the world. Which means that every single war that's ever been fought has been orchestrated by these extremely rich people, because it doesn't matter. They're not a citizen of any country. They own the whole world already. And if they are, quote, let's say they identify as Americans, they don't care if America ends up going to war and losing the war. They're going to charge, let's say if Russia and the United States went to war, it would be them playing Russia against the United States. I could go on and on about stuff that I can't talk about on this channel, but there's no such thing as nations. It doesn't exist. So apparently we are on the verge of getting to the place where people will become aware of what they're doing, and then they'll stop complying. And it's if there's no compliance, they have no power. But they have to lie to you and hypnotize you into believing that there a certain world exists, which doesn't. And as long as you believe that certain world exists, which you call the Matrix, as long as you believe in the Matrix, then they have power over you. But the moment that you're, quote, red-pilled, which means that you wake up to the reality that, hold on, the world I thought existed doesn't exist. You see things for what they are, they lose power over you. What else? So I think, Olivia, this is your projection. I don't think you're not gonna die tomorrow. This is your projection, and again, I think you'd benefit from some counseling. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. My mom shames me for getting therapy and having my own spiritual practice. Oh, that's pretty destructive. This deeply hurts me and makes me want to move out even more than I already did before. Yeah, I don't blame you. I think you should get out as soon as possible. That's a very destructive environment. Impetus correspondent, question. Recently my brother seen a ghost. So is English your first language? I don't know if it is. If it is, why aren't you using entire sentences in correct grammar? Recently, my brother seen a ghost in our backyard. So I went to do the lightning qigong outside. The next day, the east stone on our thunder wheel was took out. What could the ghost be saying? I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's an interesting coincidence. The east represents your identity. So a negative entity wants to attack your sense of self. So that could be it. It means you need to do more work to empower yourself. That's the best guess I can come up with. Do I have any other questions? I don't see any other questions here. All right, so that's it for me, guys. If you want to empower yourself, those are the tools that I have. I've given you a link up here. If you go up, you'll see the link, a YouTube link, which is access to do free practices. If you want the real stuff, I recommend going here. You can go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. And if you want to become an elite spirit warrior, then you can do this practice. Any one of these practices, if you want, I'm going to start thinking about creating a specific ritual or something that we can all do to take the power away from the reptilian elite and expose them for who they are. And this is the power that will do that. In the meantime, focusing on empowering your heart, your identity, having love for yourself, and fighting for your individuality. Connecting yourself. Here's the one thing. Notice that what's happened in this pandemic. There's been lockdowns, there's been quarantines, There has been censorship like I've never seen in my entire life. People are forced to isolate. And they're forced to only get approved information through approved information channels. And that means that people lose the sense of self, the sense of empowerment. People feel alone, they feel isolated, they feel helpless. And so what we can do is when we tap into the heart center, we tap into the, what's the word I want to use? We tap into the collective unconscious of the world. We tap into the infinity that we're all tapped into. You know, when people inaccurately say, I'm one with everything, when they're destroying their identity, your identity, when you are filled with love for yourself, you actually are connected to everybody else. The quantum field, that's what I wanted to say. When you tap into your heart, you tap into the quantum field, which taps you into everybody else, all of the other souls in existence. This is what the reptilians want to take you away from. They want to isolate you in your own head so that you aren't connected to everything. So by doing this, just by doing this practice, you are fighting against them. You are bringing Vishnu down and incarnating into the world, at the very least through you. And that's the only way that we can destroy their negativity, is by focusing not just on love. You will get that. Focusing on the power of the soul, the power of your individuated beauty. And when you refuse to comply, then this is the only way we're going to destroy them. And the only way that we're going to achieve that awakening, which will completely take away all of their power. Hopefully we're on the verge of doing that. All right, is that it for me? That's it for me. That's it. Okay. My apologies. Sometimes I get, as you know, I get a little cranky, and I give people a hard time. So my apologies if I've offended or hurt anybody in me doing my thing. I'm working on it, but yeah, that's it. All right, I've done all my sales, and everything else needs to get done. Go to my other channels. If you want to hear me talk uncensored, you can go to bitshoot.com and look for thunderwizard.com. I've got a link up at the top here, at the top of the chat. And you can also go to odyssey.com, odyssee.com, and look for thunderwizard.com. And there you can see all of my uncensored videos. All right, I wish you guys all the best, and I will see you when I see you. Take care.